Welcome back to San Diego Market Movers. I'm your host, Jason Yoss. I'm here with Jen Rierson. Jen, great to see you again.
Thanks for having me.
So we talked a lot about all the different types of clients you work with. Now, specifically when we're talking about clients wishing to sell their home, what recommendations do you have for questions they should be asking when interviewing a listing agent?
This is great. I work with a lot of sellers. So aside from making sure that your listing agent is a full-time agent, I have a few tips. So I would definitely ask them, how are you vetting buyers that submit an offer on my home? So you don't want to get into escrow with someone that their lender said they qualified and their lender didn't fully vet them. There's many institutions and lenders that don't do all of the full underwriting that is really necessary. So I always make it a requirement whenever we get offers, I have them cross-qual with my lender just to make sure. And I've really saved some of my sellers some heartache because, people that the offer looked really great and that they were leaning towards, we found out they actually didn't even qualify. So that's something that's very important. How are the offers being vetted?
Okay. So besides being a full-time agent, which I think is probably the greatest no-braining questions that you can have, talk to me a little bit more. I love cross-qualifying with a lender of your own. And what other questions do you normally have them ask to make sure they're choosing the right agent for them?
You preparing an appraisal packet and meeting the appraiser on the day of the appraisal. Even if they can't make it that day, there's got to be a way for them to get it to the appraiser, because even if it's a no-brainer, you never know who's showing up that day, how familiar they are with the community. I always put together a very thorough packet. I've had many appraisers be very thankful for it because some aren't familiar with the neighborhood, or you're pointing out things in a niche market like, no, that was really classified as a condo and the appraiser didn't know that. So that's something that's, I think, very important, can save a lot of headaches down the road.
What's the worst case scenario when an agent doesn't do that with an appraisal situation?
Well, for instance, let's just use Imperial Beach for an example. There's a lot of cloud condos there. So if an appraiser goes into that community and doesn't know that this is actually a single family home and not a cloud condo, and they are using those comps for a single family home, you could run into some big trouble and it come in way undervalued where it should be.
So, and if a property comes in the appraisal under value or under what the purchase price is, what happens to your client?
You have to go back to the negotiating table. You've got to go back to the buyer's agent and say, hey, listen, my sellers, there's options. The sellers can come down in price. The buyers can come up with money. You can meet in the middle, or worst case scenario, the buyer can walk and you have to go back to square one.
Jen, obviously those are some very important items that a lot of our audience doesn't consider. A lot of times they think, well, who can get me the most money? But
right.
Helping to find a buyer that can actually close, making sure you prep the appraiser so that they put an appraisal amount that meets the purchase price. These are, and
Yes.
being a full-time agent. These are all great things.
Right.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Of course.
Everybody, thanks so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.